Wait, no, there it is again. I thought it stopped. All right, just give me a second. Okay, if this recorder is still working, this will be the last file on it. That's the point of making it. I'm putting it in the desk drawer with the key. Once I finish, I'm locking everything up and leaving the building. After that, there won't be any reason to come back, and there won't be any reason for anyone to listen to this unless something goes wrong with the handover tomorrow. This recording is just to finish the log, not the official one. The official log is already printed and signed. This is the rest of it, the part that never made it onto the forms. There it is again. It sounds like someone setting something down in the hallway. Very gently, a soft tap, then nothing. The motion sensors out there should have caught it hours ago if anyone was still here. Anyway, the building is empty. It has been since 5. That's policy. No overnight staff anymore, not after the consolidation last year. Everything is automated now. Climate control, lighting cycles, door locks. I'm only here tonight because they wanted one last physical inventory before the archive gets transferred. Boxes are stacked everywhere. The shelves are half empty already. For 10 years this place was full. Paper records, cabinets, people moving around, talking, coughing, printers going. You'd hear chairs rolling across the floor all day long. Now when something moves, it's noticeable. I'm getting off track. This started about 6 weeks ago. I didn't report it then because there wasn't anything specific to report. Just small inconsistencies. Nothing you could point to. Files returned to the wrong shelf. Cabinet drawers left open. Lights switching on in rooms that had already been cleared for the night. At first I assumed it was the contractors. They've been in and out of here dismantling equipment. But when I asked, they said they never touched the archive wing. Then I assumed it was me. Long days, lots of repetitive work. You pull a file, you replace a file. Eventually your brain fills in gaps that didn't happen. I've seen that before, so I started double-checking everything. When I closed a cabinet, I'd tug it twice. When I turned off a light, I'd stand there and watch it go dark. If I moved a box, I wrote the shelf number down immediately. The strange part wasn't that things kept shifting. The strange part was how small the shifts were. One folder leaning slightly out of line. A label turned upside down. A chair moved an inch, not enough that you'd trip on it, just enough that you'd notice if you looked directly at it. Little corrections. At first I thought someone was coming in after me, cleaning up, straightening things. But the security logs don't show any entries. And the doors lock automatically at 9. The first time I felt certain something had happened was in storage room B. I remember it clearly because it was Tuesday and the fluorescent light in that room flickers. It's always done that. I was cataloging the last of the microfilm boxes. There were 6 left. I counted them when I came in. 6. I remember lining them up on the table so I could check the numbers. Then the phone rang in the front office. Startled me. It hardly ever rings anymore. I stepped out for maybe 30 seconds to see if it was the facilities office calling. No one was there. No call on the line. Just silence. When I came back, the boxes were still on the table. But there were 7. I counted them 3 times. I checked the shelf to make sure I hadn't missed one earlier. Nothing missing from the shelf. Nothing recorded anywhere. Just an extra box sitting neatly in the row, perfectly aligned with the others. I assumed I had miscounted. That explanation worked for about 2 weeks. Then the adjustments started happening while I was watching. Not big things. Nothing obvious. Once I was writing a label on a folder, when I realized the cabinet drawer I just closed was open again. Only a few inches. I don't remember hearing it slide. Another time I stacked a set of binders and turned to grab the tape dispenser. When I turned back, the top binder had been rotated slightly so the edges lined up better. I stood there for a long time staring at it, trying to remember if I had done that automatically. People do small corrections like that without thinking. Straightening objects, aligning corners. The brain likes order. I told myself that was all it was. Until tonight. There's that sound again. In the hallway. It's like someone placing something carefully on the floor. Just once. Then quiet. All right. Tonight was the final inventory sweep. Every shelf cleared. Every box numbered for transport. I started at the far end of the archive wing and worked toward the front door. By 9:30, there was only one aisle left. I remember feeling relieved about that. I thought I'd be finished early. Halfway down the aisle, I noticed something strange about the labels on the shelves. They were cleaner, not newly printed. The same old labels, same faded tape, but the edges were straight, perfectly straight. The corners of every label lined up with the shelf edges like someone had used a ruler. I didn't do that. I know I didn't do that. I checked the shelves earlier in the week. The labels were crooked then. Some of them had been peeling. Tonight they all looked corrected. I walked the length of the aisle twice. Everything was aligned. Boxes flush with the shelf edges. Labels straight. Even the dust patterns looked disturbed, like someone had wiped small circles where objects used to sit. But nothing was missing. Nothing extra. Just adjusted. I stood there for a while trying to figure out when it could have happened. There aren't any cameras inside the aisles anymore. They were removed last year, so there's no record of anything moving here after 9. Which means, actually, I didn't understand it until about 20 minutes ago. That's when I finished packing the last cabinet. I closed it, locked it, and turned off the aisle lights. When I stepped back into the hallway, I noticed the cart I'd been using was gone. I thought maybe I had left it farther down the corridor. But when I walked to the end of the hall, it wasn't there. Then I came back to the office to check the loading area. And the cart was here, parked beside the desk, perfectly centered between the wall and the filing cabinet. Exactly parallel. The thing is, I never put it there. I left it halfway down the archive corridor because one of the wheels sticks. It's hard to steer, so I usually just leave it where I finish working. I remember doing that tonight, very clearly. And the hallway between there and here is long enough that you'd hear someone pushing a cart across the floor. It makes a scraping noise every few seconds when the wheel catches. I didn't hear that, just those quiet taps, like something being set down. I think I understand it now. Not completely, but enough. All the adjustments, the straightened labels, the drawers nudged closed. The chairs moved an inch. They weren't random. They were corrections. Small ones at first. Just enough to make things neater than they had been before. Then a little larger. Moving objects between rooms. Rearranging things so they line up. And tonight, moving the cart. Finishing the last of the organization. Which means something must have started the work after I stopped. Something that noticed the places I left unfinished. Something that kept going. I'm gonna lock this drawer now. The hallway just made that sound again. Closer this time. Like something being placed carefully on the floor outside the office door. I don't think it's moving things randomly. I think it's putting them where they're supposed to be. And earlier, when I walked through the archive wing, for a moment I had the feeling that one of the aisles looked wider than it used to. just slightly, like something that had been in the way was gone. I can hear the cartwheel now, just once, that scraping catch, then quiet again.